You're live, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Tara. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Council on Thursday, the 12th of September 2024. My name is Councillor Kevin Lagan, and I am the Chairman of the Council. Members and members of the public, we are streaming this meeting live as well as recording, and by being present in the meeting, you're given your consent to being recorded. During each item, please put your hand up to indicate if you wish to speak. I will then invite you at the appropriate time. Please note that the YouTube live stream sound recording is dependent on the correct use of the microphones. Therefore, can I ask that when invited to speak, you remember to turn on your microphone and turn it off when finished. Please reference a page or a paragraph number when referring to the agenda papers and keep your contributions as clear and as concise as possible. We do not have any fire alarm testing today. If you hear the alarm, please exit the chamber using one of the two marked fire escape routes. Once out of the building, please proceed to the designated muster point located in the grass verge by the police station entrance. Because we have members of the public watching downstairs, there's officers downstairs to help evacuate should the need arise. Okay, agenda item 2. Clerk, please may we have the apologies for absence.
Thank you, Chairman. Apologies have been received from Councillor Bell, Councillor Bowen, Councillor Durham, Councillor Jennings, Councillor Miller, Councillor White and Councillor Whiffen. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed. We move on to agenda item 3, which is minutes of the Council from the 11th of July 2024. It is recommended that the minutes of the Council meeting held on the 11th of July 2024, which is found on pages 5 to 16 of your agenda pack, are approved as a true and accurate record. I do have a slight amendment to minute number 159, which is statement of the Leader of the Council. It's the 4th paragraph on page 9. The final sentence should read, the Liberal Democrat group had worked together with the other groups and he believed this had been positive for the Council, because it was a typo and said continue, and hoped it would continue. I so move with that amendment. Seconded by Councillor Pratt. Members, can we agree by assent? Agreed. Thank you very much indeed. We now move on to agenda item 4, which is the minutes of the 30th of July 2024. It is recommended that the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 30th of July 2024 on pages 17 to 22 are approved as a true and accurate record. I so move. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pratt again. Members again by assent? Agreed. Thank you very much indeed. Move to agenda item 5, which is declaration of interest. This is to disclose the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interest, other registrable interest and non-registrable interests relating to the items of business on the agenda, having regard to paragraph 9 and appendix B of the Code of Conduct for Members. And members, as we know, we're reminded that we must also disclose such an interest as soon as you become aware throughout the meeting should the need arise. Thank you. We move on to item number 6, which is public questions. And I could advise that we have received a question to the Leader of the Council from a member of the public, Mr. Stephen Rogers. Details of the question received and prepared response from the Leader, which is going to be oral. The question can be found on the supplementary pack that has already been circulated. Mr. Rogers, who's in attendance, you've done this before, sir, so if you'd like to come up to the horseshoe and put your red light on and then deliver your question, please. Thank you. And welcome.
Good evening, everyone. The draft consultation report regarding medical services being provided from St Peter's has been published. Over 5,544 people responded to the ICB, of which 3,945 were from Maldon. A further 1,500 from Maldon District responded via a letter from Sir John Whittingdale, and over 6,000 signed a petition. The response is an overwhelming rejection of all 3 proposals by the ICB. On average, 93% of the people in Maldon District believed that the proposals were bad or very bad ideas, with only 3% thinking they were good. Engaging with the ICB before the report is published is actively undermining the belief and actions of many thousands of Maldon residents. Will the Council commit not to engage with the MSC ICB regarding the relocation of services from St Peter's until after the consultation report is fully published and the official results can be considered by the Council?
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Leader, thank you.
I had a very beneficial meeting with Mr. Rogers on Tuesday, where we discussed the NHS consultation and health services in the district. And I think as a council, we recognise how important the health services are to the district and the strength of feeling from residents in the district. As a leader, I agree with those concerns, and I want to ensure that as a council, we do not facilitate any kind of closure of services within the Maldon district and facilitate any behaviour that would give advantage to the ICB. So therefore, I think it's important that we do not engage with the ICB in regard to relocation of those services. There was lots of things last week on social media, and I think my press release on Monday put pay to those things. We are in no way are we talking to Essex County Council or the NHS about moving any of their services into this building at this moment in time. We will not be accommodating the library in this building. In terms of how we engage with the ICB, there is an item on the agenda, item 7A, which will be debated by council later in the evening. That will form the approach of the council and any dialogue that we have with external partners.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Mr. Rogers. And thank you, Councillor Lay, for allowing Mr. Rogers there. Thank you. Okay, members, we move on to agenda item 7, which is Chairman's announcements. And as normal, I'm suspending the need to stand when addressing the Chair in accordance with Part 4, Section 8, Subsection 3 of the Constitution. And also in accordance with Part 4, Rule 1(4) of the Constitution, I'm going to vary the order of business, and therefore I'm going to move agenda item 17 up the agenda to be the next item of business. So 17 is urgent items of business. So we move on to 17A, which is urgent business, authority to engage with partners on future provision of local health issues. So this item, urgent item of business, authority to engage with partners on future provision of local health services, is found on the supplementary pack circulated, and it's found on pages 3 to 6. Mr. Holmes, I believe you're going to speak to this. Thank you. So, Councillor Flynn.
Sorry, I beg your pardon, Chairman. I just wanted to declare a non-vegetable interest in relation to this, because I am a frequent attender of the hospital. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Chairman. Members, this report has been drafted specifically to ensure officers do not act against members' wishes. Your corporate leadership team is seeking to establish if they should re-engage with the NHS and other key partners relating to the possible locations for the delivery of local health services. The public consultation regarding the NHS services at St Peter's Hospital has identified a number of ideas from the public which the NHS are keen to explore, and some of them include council assets. If discussions are to be held by partners over options for maintaining local delivery of services, officers wish to understand if this council should be represented at those discussions at this time. I am keen to reassure that any proposed use of assets would of course be subject to the agreement of council. No delegated decision making has been asked for or needed in this respect. Finally, the report should be seen as a neutral act. No conclusion should be drawn over the future of the St Peter's site through its drafting. It is simply asking if we should be part of any discussions involving council land or buildings. Thank you, Chairman.
Mr. Holmes, thank you. So, members, we have recommendations on the table. So we have recommendation little 1, that officers are authorised to engage with key partners, including Essex County Council and the NHS, as a contingency to assist in the identification of local opportunities to maintain services currently provided from the St Peter's Hospital site, should they be required. Little 2, that the leader of the council attends key partner meetings as and when required. And little 3, that the council is updated on discussions on a regular basis and any proposals are brought forward to the council for consideration as and when identified. I've moved those recommendations. Do I have a seconder? I'll second. It's okay, seconded by the leader. Members, over to you. Okay, so the driver first, please. Councillor Spenceley.
Thank you, Chair. I will stand. I'm concerned that actually this proposal has come to Council. On the 21st of March, we had a very similar proposal that came to us asking whether actually we would agree to officers negotiating with the NHS in terms of facilities that might or might not be available to the medical services in Maldon. And there was a clear outcome, which was that we said no until the consultation had been completed and we had had a chance to see the final report. And only then, once we'd seen the final report, would we engage with the NHS. I think if we engage with the NHS, we are giving them an avenue or a potential avenue, and I think they need to own this decision. I do not think that actually we should be in any way party to what will be a very difficult decision if they choose to close St Peter's. But if they do, then that is their decision and they need to own it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Driver. We now have Councillor Nick Spenceley, please.
Thank you, Chair. I think we need to see this whole issue of services in Maldon in the context of the history of medical services in Maldon and the comparison with the very different medical services that are available to residents in other parts of the Mid and South Essex footprint. And when the consultation report was produced, one of the tables was a RAG-rated assessment of buildings in which most of the community hospitals were rated green and St Peter's red, reflecting a woeful neglect of the fabric for many years. And it brings me to mind of a biblical quote, if you'll forgive me, "For whoever has, to him more will be given, and he will have abundance. But whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken away from him." Matthew chapter 13, if you're interested. And I'm very angry about this, as are a lot of people, because our community hospital has been allowed to decay in its fabric for many years and to suffer a stealthy erosion of its services, culminating in a cynical snatch of inpatient beds last year to preempt the process which followed and basically make it a fait accompli. All this is in the context of massive growth of our town. And that's, you know, that places us firmly in the have-nots camp. And if you look at the haves, you only have to look at Braintree, which not only has a modern community hospital, but has on the back of that quality service attracted a community diagnostic centre, something that Maldon desperately needs. So I really feel, as Councillor Driver has expressed, disappointed that we're even raising the prospect in any way, shape or form of discussing short-selling our community with a fudge that places services in whatever building is deemed to be suitable or available, because this will only lead to a substandard service and a withdrawal over subsequent years of even what we have there. So I, like Councillor Driver, I really urge members to vote against this because it's a sellout, it's collusion. This is not our call. We need to hold our nerve. This is the ICB's call. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Spenceley. Councillor Paula Spenceley, please.
Thank you, Chair. So, as some of you will already know, possibly because I go on about it so much, I am the District Council's representative at Essex Health Overview and Scrutiny. So last Thursday, the ICB had some representatives there to talk about the results of the consultation with the Essex County Councillors on that committee. And I've got a quote here from Dr. Matthew Sweeting, who is the Medical Director of the ICB, and this quote's available in the public recording of the meeting. And when he describes what St Peter's Hospital is now about and what we're supposed to be saving, the majority are actually blood services. So blood taking, phlebotomy, but they do some basic imaging x-rays as well as other outpatient appointments in a range of specialisms. That's what he thinks of our hospital still after this consultation. That's not a community hospital. That doesn't describe the St Peter's that I'm aware of, and I'm sure it doesn't describe the St Peter's that everybody else is aware of. A little later in the meeting, he was asked by one of the other county councillors, will we be back looking at another community hospital closure in the next couple of years, given that they have a £91 million plus, I think it's £99 million now, deficit? Will we be back? And the answer was, oh no, not with those community hospitals left, because they're purpose-built medical facilities. My point is, all we will be doing if we engage before this decision is made is giving the ICB a way out. Not just a way out of the problem they're now in, but I think probably a way out of town. And I think the point that the other Councillor Spenceley has just made with regard to, it's not just the services that we have there now that we're giving up here. The CDC, the Community Diagnostic Centre at Braintree, says it all. It's the future services that will be attached to a purpose-built medical facility. And actually, it's not our responsibility to bail the ICB out. And I think I'll echo what Councillor Driver just said to finish. I've got a message for the ICB. If you decide to abandon what you promised for the people here over the last few decades, if that's your decision, own it.
Thank you, Councillor Spenceley. Councillor Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I, like Councillor Driver, I'm completely mystified as to where these recommendations have come from. And certainly from my part and from our group's part, we fully endorse and support Mr. Rogers' question and will be voting against these recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fluker.
Chairman, it's something I'm very confused here, because Council made a decision 6 months ago, which this report does not attempt to unravel. So Councillor Driver is absolutely right. In fact, I'm surprised in some ways this has found its way onto the agenda, Chairman, without that being mentioned. I mean, we can't really unravel that decision, I'm afraid. But Chairman, roundly speaking, I agree with everything that's said, but it's not up to us to mitigate the closure. It's up to the National Health Service. You know, it's not up to us to give them a get out of jail card and almost certainly close the facility and then say they're going to move into one of these other buildings, for example. You know, I've heard the library mentioned, you know, I've heard these premises next to it will be Moot Hall or somewhere like that. And whether these are appropriate or not, I don't know. This is the National Health Service at the best it can be, at its worst. And I'm sure you've all been listening to our new wonderful Prime Minister and what he's got to say about the National Health Service today. It's up to them to deliver something on their own. I can't support these recommendations, but I do think from a governance point of view, this report should not be in front of the Council.
Thank you. Just before we go to Councillor Thompson, I can just give a bit of context that members will remember that there's a 6-month rule before a resolution can come back to council by councillors, but in the Constitution, officers can bring papers forward if they feel that it's in the benefit of the council. So that's why the paper exists.
With respect, that should be in there. And it should be the officers, what they should be doing is saying, look, council made this decision 6 months ago. In theory, it can't be unravelled for 6 months, but, and that's why this report, I'm afraid, is somewhat lacking.
All I do, Councillor Fluke, is give you the context of how the decisions are made, and the Constitution allows for that. And I think that the paper was right to be brought to council. I'm feeling the mood of the chamber, but we'll move on to Councillor Thompson, please.
Thank you. While I do actually understand the feeling that the council should not be left out of any discussions, I still believe that we shouldn't be involved before the full report is published. It's, as others have said, it's the ICB's decision, and I, for one, don't want my fingerprints on it. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you very much. Mr. Holmes, I believe would like to interject.
Thank you, Chairman. Just for clarity, I'd draw members' attention to 3.3 of the report. The reason for this report coming back to council is because circumstances slightly changed. There's been discussions with the county council, and they were very keen to engage with the district council and the NHS. So I reiterate, it's the officers seeking your clarity. The reason we brought this report back is to say it's a question that's been asked. Do you want us to engage?
Thank you, Mr. Holmes. Councillor Lay next, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to echo my colleagues, Councillor Driver, Councillor Spenceley, have eloquently communicated the struggle that the community is suffering at the moment with this threat to our hospitals and our services that we provided. So they've eloquently put that. My worry here is that we become, as it would be in a financial crisis, the lender of last resort. You've seen what happens with banks when they mismanage, they go wrong, and there's always someone there to bail them out. Look at what happened with the police station. We didn't need it anymore. All of a sudden, there's a police station. So it's up to the NHS to own this. We shouldn't be engaging until this is completed. It's an indiscriminate pressure on the whole community, and it's unfair to make us responsible for what they're doing.
Yep.
So I will not be voting for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lay. Councillor Fittock. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I think we've got a common theme here. I understand the reasons why the papers come forward so that we can be at the party, so to speak. And it's obvious that ECC seem to be willing to engage perhaps more than we've been able to in the past. But we are here to represent what we consider to be the best interests of the residents. And we can only use the evidence that we've been presented with, and that is in the consultation there was overwhelming dissent against relocation of services. Are we cutting our nose off to spite our face? Well, I don't consider it will be, because at the end of the day, the ICB will have to come up with a proposal that's accepted by the decision makers. And if they've got no outcome and no means of relocating services, then they're going to have to get authorisation to close St Peter's on that basis. When this all started, it was cited that they'll keep St Peter's open as long as is required. Well, if as long as it's required is what it is. If they can't find an outcome by the end of the consultation, then the outcome should be keep St Peter's open until they can find one. And I would agree that I don't think that we want to facilitate this. I understand the principle of being a contingent, but that also means that in the contingency situation, we become, as Councillor Lay said, the lender of last resort. So I'm sorry, it's not a proposal that I can support.
Thank you, Councillor Fittock. Councillor Stilts.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Many years ago, I actually worked at St Peter's in the stroke ward as a HCA, and we were told then that St Peter's was going to be a hospital of excellence for stroke. And the people that come to the stroke wards, they were local. They weren't, maybe some of them can't drive to Broomfield, they can't get a bus, their transport is lacking. And I feel very strongly, I mean, when I was up there, we had, about 4 wards on one side that was just ladies, and about the same on the other side that was men. And then they took those away and made it smaller and smaller. Where was that centre of excellence? We have people that aren't able to get to these other hospitals. We're not thinking about transportation of these people. We're growing in the number of houses that are being built, and yet we've got no medical facilities for them. So I feel very strongly that we should keep St Peter's. I feel that we should not be engaging with this. If Essex County Council want to, it's up to them, but it is down to the hospital. And when I moved to Maldon, we were promised, and that's 30 odd years ago, that St Peter's was going to be rebuilt and it was going to be wonderful. And we've seen at least 4 different plans for what they were going to do with St Peter's on different sites. And now they can't afford to do anything. So I won't be supporting this either.
Thank you. Councillor Siddle, leader, please.
I agree wholeheartedly with the sentiments that were expressed in the chamber this evening. We should not be providing an avenue for the NHS to be let off the hook. We should not be providing an avenue for the NHS not to deliver again in terms of medical services. And as Councillor Stilts alluded to, they've not delivered for the last 30 years. And that's the big issue. We need to ensure that whatever we get for the future is the right services. And we need to ensure that we work with partners when the time is right. And that's Part of what we're doing in terms of the Maldon Summit, and several councillors who are here this evening were at that Maldon Summit. That Maldon Summit was called by Essex County Council. Essex County Council have a pie in the sky idea about one public estate, which they seem to think that because it's owned by different parts of the government and it's paid for by public services and public money, that we're all in it together. We're not. We're not all in it together. And what we mustn't do at Maldon District Council is facilitate the IC being let off the hook. And that's really, really important to me, and I know it's really important to members. We have to ensure that when the time is right, we have those dialogues. Once the conclusions have been made, that's the crucial thing. We need to ensure that we get the infrastructure in Maldon that we've had a deficit in. Not only is it on the NHS services, but it's on our roads and schools as well. We need to ensure, and part of what we try to do, and I know Councillor Stamp has been really vocal about this, and it's part of the work that she's done that's led to these summits, is ensuring that we get those things delivered for the Maldon district. As leader, that's one of the things I really want to focus on, is ensure we get these things delivered for the district. So I can fully appreciate that. What I would really like members to do, though, is to enable me to continue having discussions with partners, but not agreeing to any use of our assets for those services. So I think it's really important, because what might happen at the next summit is the NHS are likely to be there, and we as Maldon District will have to leave the room at that time. I would like to be there to hear the discussions that the NHS might have with Essex County Council, with us, and we need to be in that room. So that's the thing for me that's the most important part in terms of this, is ensuring that we might not say anything, but we're there to listen. And if we're not there, that can cause us a disadvantage.
Good leader. Councillor Stamp, please. Councillor Spencer's already spoken, so you want to do that? Councillor Spenceley.
I still don't understand why we'd be making the decision now instead of after the 30th. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Thank you. Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, I'd like to declare an interest. I was there as an Essex County Councillor, but I'm here as a Maldon District Councillor. I think we have to be cautious that there's an old saying, you have to be in it to win it. And whilst I totally agree, we don't want to lose the services. The idea of this Maldon Summit was arranged to try and bring in the relief road to build the new medical centre. I know lots of people don't want it to move, and that's the agreement that comes from the NHS. There's nothing that we cannot stop that unless the people who have represented us can change the mind of the ICB, and everybody's going to make that decision. What I'm a little bit torn here, because I can understand that we need to be around the table, but as long as we have clear guidance that nobody can make any decision, whether it be an officer, whether it be a leader, whether it be a working group, but certainly for one, I will always attend those Maldon summits, because unless we do unblock that relief road, we are going to be, I think, we're most probably going to be put in a position where they just do spread out the services, regardless of what everybody wants. Now, I don't agree with that and I won't support it, but I do think we need to think what the leaders actually said about the other picture, the other side of it, which is whether it be in a month's time or in 6 weeks' time. We still need to be at that table, Chair, that we're listening, otherwise we may not be able to influence anything. We've been trying to do this for 20, 30 years to try and bring this hospital. Who says that it's going to be any different unless we can actually sit around that table, unlock that relief road? It may lead to more development. There's lots of upheaval with central government and the NPPF and all the extra development that may come that we maybe don't have a choice about and a chance to actually to stop. But we have to be able to hear what is going on, and then we can turn around and say, no, we don't want it. 99 million, I think it's gone up to 99, it keeps going up. It's like the black hole at the moment. It's either 21, 22 or whatever millions every time the news comes on the TV. as everybody said, and I totally agree with the majority of that, what's been said, it's not our decision. We cannot do that, make that decision. That comes from the NHS. They are in turmoil. They're all over the place. We actually know that. But I'm a little bit concerned about the way the paper's written. I think, from my point of view, whether it be me who sits there as an Essex County Councillor on this and Mark Durham, Councillor Durham, around the table, it's entirely up to members. But surely the leader, as long as he's given the brief that he cannot make any decisions, he cannot speak out of turn, then I do think somebody and an officer needs to be at that table to represent us. But I'm more than happy to hold it off until the end of the consultation. So I'm sorry, I'm not as cut and dried as everybody else. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that the concerning part for me in the paper is about discussing the use of the council assets. I think that's to take that part, we can do that. We've had quite a robust. Do you want to come back, Councillor Fluker?
Yeah, I'm just getting a bit concerned now, because now we've got, all of a sudden, we've got the relief road. We've got the relief road in this, and you know, that's getting very close to the expiry of the 106 agreement. And going back, Chairman, to when I was talking about my attendance at phlebotomy, my personal view is there's more chance of me being cured of hemochromatosis than that relief road ever being delivered.
Yeah, of course you can. Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Councillor Fluker. It's interesting, since we have had the dialogue with Essex County Council, there is more chance of that road being delivered. We are unlocking that infrastructure, and that's the crucial thing. We need to look at, you know, putting in, so not only is there deficits in the NHS services and infrastructure in this district, there's also the deficits of the roads, the schools. We need to hold these people to account more than we've ever done so before, and it's only by being at that table, by holding their feet to the fire, that we're able to do that.
Okay, I think I've allowed a robust debate. There's a very common theme. I'm minded, members, with your permission, to take the recommendations as they are on whole. If they fall, then I have a separate recommendation that I'd like to propose. Councillor Stamp?
Well, can we hear your second recommendation?
Okay, my second recommendation is that officers and the leader attend on a listening brief and report back to council. The further meetings.
After the end of the consultation?
Yes, after the end of the consultation. Because I think we've got to have in the room.
That's fine.
Yeah, because that's what I was feeling from the room, that we don't want it now, we want it afterwards. And then after that, then we can empower to bring information back to us. Councillor Morgan.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I'm slightly confused. Are you saying that this will be before the report consultation has been produced, or afterwards?
Afterwards.
But if it's afterwards, surely we would have to take what outcome of that report was and reformulate our policy accordingly.
Just a fair point. Councillor Fluker.
Chairman, this is a huge amount of work for the leader to take on his own. Chairman, can I just propose an amendment, Chairman, to yours, that it should be the leader and one other member, the deputy leader of the opposition, I would have thought, Chairman, unless somebody else wants to volunteer. But I really do think we should have a couple of members there, Chairman, to get the full picture.
Thank you. The leader hand went up from this side.
Driver,
I saw a hand. Councillor Fittick, I think you wanted to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, we've actually got 3 recommendations to consider. I mean, and it seems to me the most contentious one is the first 1.1, where it's intimating that the officers are permitted to liaise with the ICB with respect to being a contingent position. And I think we've expressed our concerns about what that contingent position might lead to. So I would suggest that perhaps the recommendation, we could change it to something along the lines of little 1, that the officers are authorised to engage with key partners, including Essex County Council and NHS, to assist in retention of services at St Peter site, or an alternative bespoke community hospital. That would be taken. And
yes, those get messy.
And the little 2 and little 3 remain the same.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Fitzick. Leader.
I'm just going to throw something into the ring. What if the publication of the report is delayed for 3, 4, 5, 6 months? So does that then stop us having any so for example, if you know the NHS come to the overview and scrutiny committee, does that mean that they can't come to the overview and scrutiny? So I'm trying to make sure that we're not tying ourselves up here. So is it that we can't have any discussions with the NHS, or we can't have any discussions with the NHS about the use of our building and assets? Okay, so if we can put that into the recommendation that we could still have discussions with the NHS, but not about the use of our building and services.
Or as a contingent.
Councillor Driver.
I think there needs to be a very clear message, and I think we're in danger of blurring it. So my view is that actually, as we said on the 21st of March, that actually we shouldn't be engaging at officer and member level with any discussions in relation to the future of St Peter's or where those assets might go to, because I think what will end up is a discussion about possibilities. And as soon as we get a discussion about possibilities further down the line, then some of those possibilities may be the use, or they may imply they're the use of our buildings either here or elsewhere. And I think that puts us in a difficult position. I think they need to own this. They need to complete their report. We need to see their report and their recommendations. And then we absolutely engage with them about what they're then saying to us. But actually, I think if we are engaging at this level, now this is not to say we can't talk about the South Maldon Relief Road. That is a different issue. It might well open up a space. But to be honest with you, I was listening to that particular plot of land in 2017 being, the saviour of medical services in Maldon, and we're 7 years on and nothing has happened, and partly because actually I don't think they've been held sufficiently to the fire. I think part of holding them to the fire will be making them own whatever their decision is going to be, and then we engage with them once they've owned it. That's my opinion.
Councillor Driver, I think that's been debated enough. Last one is Councillor Stevens, because you haven't spoken. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Driver. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Chair. We've got to be at the table, in my view, and Councillor Siddle is right that in this report could be delayed, and we could sit here for months knowing that there are conversations going on and we don't quite know what's going on, and people are suggesting things, and we'll be sitting here going, oh, I don't like the sound of that, but we'll be powerless to step in and have our say on it. Maybe we do need to amend this to put some caveats around it, but to just turn our backs and say we're not going to talk to you till you've produced your report, that will just bounce off the NHS. They'll go and do what they're going to go and do, if that's delaying the report or whatever. If we're not at the table, we can't complain later if we don't like what they come up with.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. So, members, how do you want to proceed on this? Councillor Stilts, I've actually closed.
Can we have a recorded vote, please?
Is that seconded? Recorded vote proposed by Councillor Stilts, seconded by Councillor Neal. So do we want to go for the recommendations singly, or would you like to go from en bloc? Singly? Okay, I'll be led by the chamber. So Tara, did you hear the recorded vote was requested?
Yes, Chairman, I've got that. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. So for the first recommendations, you're either for or against. Little recommendation 1. The officers are authorised to engage with key partners, including Essex County Council and the NHS, as a contingency to assist in the identification of local opportunities to maintain services currently provided from the St Peter's Hospital site, should they be required. Okay, Tara, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. If you could just say for or against, please, or abstain when I call your name, starting with Councillor Bassinger, please.
Against.
Thank you, Councillor Burwood,
Against.
Councillor Driver,
Against.
Councillor Fittock,
Against.
Councillor Fluker,
Against.
Councillor Hayward,
Against.
Councillor Hughes,
Against.
Councillor Lagan,
Against, please, Tara.
thank you, Councillor Lay,
Against.
Councillor Laybourne,
Against.
Councillor Morgan,
Against.
Councillor Morley,
Against.
Councillor Neal,
Against.
Councillor Pratt,
Against.
Councillor Shaughnessy,
Against.
Councillor Siddle,
Against.
Councillor Siddle Norman,
Against.
That was against.
sorry. Thank you so much, thank you. Councillor Nick Spenceley,
Against.
Councillor Paula Spenceley,
Against.
Councillor Stamp,
Against.
Councillor Stevens,
Against.
Councillor Stilts,
Against.
Councillor Swindle,
Against.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. The results of that are nobody for or abstaining and 24 against, Chairman.
Thank you very much indeed, Tara. Just before I move to level 2 members, do we want to consider amending level 2 or take it as is?
Amend it to.
Amend it to so the leader attends the key part of the meetings as and when required on a listening brief, so we know what's going on. Yeah. No, okay, we'll take it as it is then. Councillor Morgan.
Can I suggest that that is amended to only that take place after the report is produced?
Well, that'll come back to us anyway, won't it? So, because
Well,
we've got a resolution now that we don't
okay.
engage with them anyway. So, okay, we'll take this as is. So, recommendation. I'll put my teeth in a minute. That the leader of the council attends key part of the meetings as and when required. Recorded votes been called for. So, please, Clerk.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members. Starting with Councillor Bassinger. For, against or abstain, please. Thank you.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Burwood.
Against.
Councillor Driver.
Against.
Councillor Fittock.
Against.
Councillor Fluker.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Hayward.
Against.
Councillor Hughes.
For.
Councillor Lagan.
For, please, Tara.
Councillor Lay.
Against.
Councillor Laybourne.
Against.
Councillor Morgan.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Morley.
Against.
Councillor Neal.
Against.
Councillor Pratt.
Against.
Councillor Shaughnessy.
Against.
Councillor Siddle.
For.
Councillor Siddle Norman.
Against.
Thank you. Councillor Nick Spenceley.
Against.
Councillor Paula Spenceley.
Against.
Councillor Stamp.
For.
Councillor Stevens.
For.
Councillor Stilts.
Against.
Councillor Swindle.
Against.
Councillor Thompson.
Against.
Thank you, Chairman. The results of that are 6 for, 18 against and no abstentions.
Thank you very much, Tara. Members have just sought the advice of the monitoring officer, and we don't need to vote on agenda recommendation 3. So I'd just like to thank members for a very robust and very caring debate, and we'll move on. Also, Mr. Rogers, thank you for your attendance and the question tonight, and all members of the Disabled Medical Services, thank you for all the work that you do to shine a light on this issue. Thank you. Thank you. I'll just postpone just for a second while some members of the public leave the chamber.
Chairman, do you mean adjourn?
No,
Just
just
postpone.
no.
That's fine.
I'll
Sorry.
just
Thank you.
don't want too much noise for. Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. So we move on to agenda item 8, which is minutes of the meetings of the council. I'm going to propose that these are noted by assent, members. Agreed, thank you, because I didn't want to read all of those out. We move to agenda item number 9, which is a notice of motion, and this is 9A, motion from Councillor KMH Lagan, which is motion reference 0/2024. In accordance with notice duly given under Procedure Rule 4, Councillor KMH Lagan to move the following motion, duly seconded by Councillor JC Stilts. That the Council makes budget provision in the 2024-2025 budget setting process and undertakes dredging works, mud cutting, bucket dredging from the area of the visitors' berth at Maldon Quay along to the end of the area used by the barge trust. This is so as to secure the safe access to the quay by Maldon's historic barge fleet, supporting visiting barges and other types of vessels to the town, and secure safe moorings of the barge fleet at Maldon. That the Council further provides a sufficient sum each year that accrues and that is ring-fenced for mud removal every 5 years to ensure that access to the quay is safely maintained at all times, and funding is provided. Work to be carried out in liaison with all key users and stakeholders. Now, members, in accordance with the Constitution, Part 4, Rule 4.3, a motion which can be dealt with by a committee needs automatic deferment, so this motion is going to be deferred to that committee without debate. Thank you, members. Question number...
Sorry, Chairman, can you just confirm which committee you're deferring?
Strategy and Resources.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
You're very welcome, Tara. Agenda item 10, questions in accordance with Procedure Rule 6.3, of which notice has been given. Any questions, Tara, members?
No, Chairman, we haven't had any, thank you.
That's lovely, thank you very much indeed. We move to agenda item 11, which is adoption of the Essex Waste Strategy. We move to agenda item 11, adoption of the Essex Waste Strategy, which is found on pages 23 to 78. Mr. Chapman, Head of Environmental Health, Waste and Climate Action, is here to present the report. Thank you, Mr. Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. So the report before you this evening is seeking agreement from Council to adopt the new waste strategy for Essex 2024 to 2054, also known as the Essex Waste Strategy, and is in Appendix 1 of the report. This strategy is the culmination of 3 years of work undertaken by the Essex Waste Partnership. That is a working group made up of officers and members representing Essex County Council and the 12 Essex Waste Collection Authorities, including Maldon. The new waste strategy for Essex provides a framework detailing how members of the Essex Waste Partnership will work together to deliver an effective and efficient waste service for the next 30 years. It commits the partners to work together to minimise the impact that waste has on the environment through embracing the circular economy, in effect seeking to minimise waste produced and encourage more recycling, and where waste cannot be recycled, the strategy proposes that we recover energy and materials from the waste. The strategy is aligned to national targets and changes in waste legislation and recognises the need to ensure that we offer value of money to the taxpayer. The strategy seeks to coordinate the design and delivery of services across Essex to achieve the overall vision, targets and ambition, but does not dictate to individual authorities how services should be provided. Within the strategy are a number of ambitious targets, including that by 2026, all residents will have access to a wide range of recycling services, including plastic, paper, card, metal, glass, garden waste and food waste recycling collections. Members will be aware that the Council already provides the majority of these services to the majority of our residents, but some work will be required to expand food waste collections to blocks of flats and to expand the garden waste collection routes to properties served by our smaller ISO vehicles. By 2027, all residents will have access to plastic film recycling services. Again, members will be aware that Maldon District Council is currently participating in a plastic bag and wrappings collection trial. This is currently offered to around 40% of our residents, and learning from this pilot will inform how services will be delivered district-wide and indeed county-wide. By 2030, the county will stop using landfill. By 2036, the partnership will aim to reuse, recycle or compost 65% of waste, and by 2042 halve the amount of residual waste collected per person to around 110 kilograms. For comparison and interest, Maldon District Council is currently the second highest performing authority for recycling in Essex, with a recycling rate of 56.4%, and currently we collect 161 kilograms of residual waste per person. All of these measures will contribute to reducing greenhouse gas emissions produced and help to contribute to net zero by 2050. This is aligning with the current county target, although I think it should be said not the current Maldon District Council ambition. In September 2023, Essex County Council commenced a 10-week consultation of the draft strategy. They received over 4,500 responses, 206 from Maldon residents or groups. Overall, the draft strategy gained good levels of support from the responders, and feedback has, where appropriate, been incorporated into the final version of the strategy presented this evening. The strategy has already been formally adopted by Essex County Council and 5 other authorities. Another 5 authorities in addition to Maldon are currently progressing the strategy through their government processes for adoption this month, with the remaining 2 intending to follow in October. Following adoption, MDC will need to develop a local action plan which will align the strategy and provide details on how we will deliver the ambitions ourselves. So with me this evening online is Carol Love, who is the Council's Waste Commissioning and Contracts Manager. She and I would be quite happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Before we move to the Chamber, we need something to debate, so I'll put the recommendations forward. We've got 2 recommendations, that the waste strategy for Essex 2024, which is held in Appendix 1, be adopted, and 2, that the post-adoption statement on the Strategic Environmental Assessment, Appendix 2, to this report be noted. Do I have a seconder? Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Spenceley, Councillor Paula Spenceley. So members, Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Could I just actually ask what, or if there are any financial implications if we do adopt this strategy? You already mentioned about we already do it really well and we should be proud of what we do, and it seems to me as though we possibly are going to lower our standards to fit in with the county. Oh, we're not. Okay, I misheard you then. I thought you said we were doing it really well and we were going to have to adjust our strategies or something. Hang on, you can come in a minute. Let me finish. I get used to being stopped and shut up. Does it actually conflict with our current ambitions and what we're actually doing? Because you turned around and said, or you did actually say, that it doesn't conform with our current climate strategy. So did I mishear that wrong as well, which I often do, and you'll get used to me doing that, but I'm sure you said that. So how are we going to address that? But my main concern is the financial implications. What do we get? Hang on, one more. I was interested when I was reading it, and I've spoken to a couple of members tonight. To me, there's a lot of words, and I see a lot of strategies with a lot of words, and I'm afraid I'm one of these. What we all know is how, when, what are we going to deliver? It's all right turning around, and we all know. I mean, I remember years ago, 40 odd years ago, me and Councillor Pratt was reminiscing, I think, earlier about things. I bought a washing machine, a dishwasher, 149 quid from MFI. Lasted me about 16, 18 years, easily. Then I got a new washing machine, a dishwasher a few years ago, hardly lasted 5 minutes. So to me, we used to build things really well, and we didn't actually have to keep building washing machines and everything else that contributes to the emissions in our society. So I'm actually looking forward to making sure big businesses, we actually start to manufacture and do our own things here, rather than importing from China, Japan, wherever, which is also going to increase our carbon footprint. So to me, this is a bigger piece of work as well. So it's a little bit disjointed, but you are used to me by now because my brain works in that way. So I'd appreciate the financial implications and the current ambition and conflict within our own strategies as well.
Thank you. Councillor Mr. Chapman, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So touching on each of those individually, from a financial implications perspective, as you've touched upon, we're already delivering the majority of these services, and the requirements that are being placed on us by this strategy are those that are already being imposed by central government. This policy, this document, this strategy in front of you seeks to identify efficiencies wherever possible, and it is not intended to it will not increase the budget financial implications beyond those that would ordinarily be associated with growth that we'd expect. From a climate perspective, there is a conflict. I felt it important to bring that out to members as part of this process. Essex County Council, as you're aware, have a climate net zero date of 2050. And so the strategy, as it is a strategy that is primarily led by the Waste Disposal Authority, is set to 2050. That does not necessarily implicate or impact upon our 2030 designs at this stage. However, we would need to consider how those two things are rationalised, and we have a net zero working group now set up with members to discuss those challenges going forwards. In terms of reduction in standards, no, that is not the intention of this at all. This is a policy that is adopted across all of Essex. We are ahead of the game, and in some regards, we have less work to do than some authorities that are who have to bring their standards up. But this has ambitious targets that are ahead of where we're currently at. We do need to increase our recycling rates. We do need to reduce the amount of residual waste we're collecting per person. We're already nearly there, which is great, but we do need to go further and harder in order to get to the standards that are in this report. This report is ambitious.
Thank you. Councillor Stanley, discuss.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come back. I think there are some financial implications because we're going to have to buy new vehicles, aren't we? Because I'll give the example of Stony Hills, Mill Road. We can't do green waste collections because the lorries are too big, etc. So I think there are going to be financial implications to this authority for us to meet the targets that have been set. So I maybe didn't explain myself clearly enough there. Thank you.
Chairman, yep.
Thank you, Chair. So those duties and those requirements, and forgive me, I probably wasn't clear either, those duties and requirements are already placed upon the council outside of this strategy by national government policy. So we have to comply with various different programmes, including simpler recycling by 2026. With or without this strategy, the council will have to offer a broad range of collection facilities, including green waste collections to Stony Hills and other small vehicle routes. So we are already obliged to do that, even with or without this strategy. Hence my point that this will not add any additional cost to the requirements that we already have. We will also be expecting some form of income at some point from EPR, effectively from packaging producers' responsibility. That will have to be seen what that impact will have.
Yeah. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Pratt, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, but I'm really struggling to support this strategy, which has come down from from a consultant. It's full of consultant speak. The words it uses is waffle, and I really struggle with it. It says that the fifth bullet point is the aims are achievable and affordable. They're not. I don't think they are. Then it says the changes there'll be no changes to the because of the consultation, which I think later on it does change, because it lays a great weight on the fact that 5.5 thousand people responded. When you think there's, I think, 1.5 million people in Essex, and I understand that there's about 1 million people that are over 18, that puts the report back at 4%. And it is such a low response, but the report says, this is brilliant, all these people have replied. They want to move to a circular economy, it says on page 32. And then it goes on about how we can design things and include packaging and change this and change that. But we as a small council has no chance to do any of that. We can lobby, we can talk about it, but we can't do it. The next thing it comes to is to say we're going to stop landfill by 2030. I don't believe that is achievable. It's 6 years away. We don't have an incinerator that works yet. They tried it at Basildon. It cost 28 million. Am I allowed to say that, Councillor Stamp? But 28 million it cost the county to knock it down because it didn't work. So they're now building another one. We don't know whether it'll work or not, but we're making these assumptions, and we as a district council are saying, oh yeah, we'll follow the banner. I don't believe that's achievable. Sorry, Chairman, I'm going to go on.
No, I'll allow you that.
It then says we're going to reduce greenhouse gas. No explanation on how, just going to do that. We're going to provide to support and reduce waste. Again, no how. The whole report just keeps saying this is what we're going to do. It doesn't say anywhere how we're going to do it. I just think this needs to go back and be written in words that we can understand. And the real disappointment for me, because back in the day when I was sort of on other committees that don't exist anymore, we spent a lot of time talking about waste. This is why Maldon is so good at it. I was expecting in this report an Essex-wide way of collecting waste so that we could all go out with the same specification and then save a fortune because everybody does it the same. If you look around, everyone does it different, whether it's blue bags, pink bags, grey bags, white bags. Just something as simple as the colour of the bag changes everywhere you go. So I'm sorry, Chairman, but I don't support endorsing this at the moment. I think it needs to be reworded. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pratt. Any comment, Mr. Chapman? There's quite a lot there. I don't expect it all to be.
Sorry, I just start off with an apology, Mr. Chapman.
Not a problem at all. A couple of things to sort of touch upon. So, as I may bring Carol in, who's the Waste and Commissioner Manager online, in a couple of seconds. I think regarding the nature of the strategy, I understand that the draft effectively did come to members originally for consideration before the consultation process took place. The working group that formulated or as part of the drafting of the strategy, of which obviously Maldon were members, included officer and member engagement. So members have been involved at a level in the drafting of this report. And I think it's important to understand this is a extremely high strategy. It's intended to last for a period of 30 years, which is why it does not contain the full detail of what is happening. And as I suggested or referred to within my commentary, the next stage of this piece of work is that Maldon District Council is required to develop its own action plan underneath, using the broad strokes of the strategy to develop its own policy. But if Chair would allow, bring...
Absolutely. Yeah, Ms Love, would you like to contribute any points?
Oh, sorry, that's not very good lighting here. Thank you for inviting me to speak on this. The actual policy is meant to be a framework for local health authorities to actually look at their own services to actually deliver the very high targets that are actually listed in there. There's a lot of legislation around at the moment with regards to simple recycling, so there's quite a few things that we need to do, but simple recycling does allow local authorities to look at the way they deliver their services, but not to have a uniform service across the whole of the UK. I think originally it was talking about consistency collections, and that would probably have driven it more down the line of this is what everybody needs to do. But with simple recycling, it's actually based on what you're doing in your own district and what's best for your area based on rurality and demographics, etc., etc. So we will be looking at our own waste plan in the next couple of years and how we can actually deliver those very challenging targets going forward. And we've already started that piece of work with Essex County Council. I mean, they are looking at doing some waste composition analysis over the next couple of months, so we can look at how we can, what's actually going into the refuse bin and what materials we need to target. So it will help us with our communications. And also there's, I mean, if you look at the recent project they ran with regards to food waste, that actually allowed Essex County Council to fund a district-wide communications campaign and actually increase the amount of food waste we're doing at the moment. And the plan is to actually bring in all of this work going forward to increase our recycling rates, as you say, to that very challenging target that we've got in the future, but not to dictate to local authorities what services they provide, because with the number of local authorities we've actually got in Essex, I don't think we would have actually got an agreement to that.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms Love. Very, very well put. Thank you. So, Councillor Stilts is next.
Thank you, but I think Mr Chapman wanted to come back.
Did you want to come back, Mr Chapman?
Just to hammer home that point about every district is slightly different within Essex. And the idea of this strategy, by not setting each individual authority with particular rules, allows us as Maldon District Council to assess our own priorities in waste collection and how we deliver a service, with consideration to our rural nature, the particular challenges we have around some of the routes that we have to undertake, some of the challenges that we face that other districts don't face in terms of our disposal points, and allows us to design a service that fits what we want to deliver for our residents within the financial envelope that we have. If we were all across Essex required to apply the same standards, we may end up with a service that doesn't fit with our residents. But this strategy allows that, whilst at the same time demonstrating and setting an ambition for the county to work together holistically towards an end goal that I think we can all agree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think that some members know that my background, I used to be a cleansing services manager for Braintree District Council. So I probably did declare that, but it's 1987, so I think it's a long time ago. And the sheer challenges of getting groups and areas to work together was problematic back then. And to hear the joyous phrase of waste composition analysis, that means going and grabbing bags, going through them by hand, count what's in it and weighing it all out. I have sleepless nights and great memories of that. But it's amazing, and it does give, Mr. Chapman and Mr. Love will confer, it gives you an ability to look at where the rubbish, what's being thrown away, and target campaigns, etc. It's actually a fascinating, revolting thing to do, but it's a real good thing. So, Councillor Stilts, I'll zip my lip and pass over to you.
Thank you. I'd like to draw members' attention to page 61 of the report, and that is garden waste, and it says separate fortnightly, no subscription. Now, we've just agreed in the budget, the last budget, to put that subscription up. How much are we going to lose by taking that one? So by taking that away, what is that going to do to, how will that affect this council?
Thank you. Mr. Chapman, do you feel you can answer that, or is that something you would need to come back to?
I'm trying to find the relevant page.
What page was it? 61.
Was it?
61 in the report.
Table 2.1.
In the Essex Waste Strategy.
Appendix 2.
Appendix 2.
Give me 2 seconds, Chair.
Miss Love, you've got your hand up. Would you want to come in?
Yeah, just to, obviously that was something that was looked at by the consultants. What they did was that at that time they looked at all of the services that were provided, including all the costs, and they looked at best practical environmental option, BPEO, and one of the things they looked at was with regards to that was whether we should be providing a fortnightly collection of free garden waste. Now, it's not a recommendation that we actually go with that. It was just something that was looked at by the consultants. And as we said earlier, they're not dictating which way we actually proceed. And since we started this work, several local authorities in Essex have actually introduced a chargeable garden waste service, including Braintree, Colchester and Basildon. So there's I think there's only a couple, 2 or 3, that actually provide a free collection service. So it's not something that we would consider going forward. As you say, we've always thought that whoever uses the service should provide it because it's not statutory at the moment. So it's not the consideration.
Thank you very much indeed. We've actually got other people before, so I'm going to take him in the order out of respect for people. The next one, the question hasn't been answered that Councillor Stilt has levied. Is that an acceptable answer, or would you care for more information at a later date?
No, one of the things, and Councillor Stamp was going to raise this, is we're being asked to accept this, but this is saying no subscription, and now we're being told, well, we don't have to go by this. So therefore, are we accepting this appendixes tonight, or are we going to say, well, let's see what we are going to produce as a council and then come back? Because one point we're saying no subscription, and then we're being told, no, we're not doing that. So I'm just confused now.
Mr. Chapman.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So apologies why it's taken me a few moments to effectively identify where it's at. So I believe this is in the secondary document, Appendix 2, yeah, the waste strategy for Essex, environmental assessment, post-adoption statement. As I understand that document, that is not the strategy that that is the supplementary document that has tested scenarios that would be potentially available to local authorities within the strategy. It is not requiring that document in itself is effectively testing the methodology within the policy itself rather than being the policy. And in fact, members are being asked to note that document as supplementary and as information that supported the Essex Waste Strategy as is being presented to you this evening. What it does not do is it does not commit the council to a mode of delivery for its waste strategies moving forwards. It is a separate notable document to show how the evidence base was created, and the council, as I've said in my piece, is free to determine its methodology of delivering waste services, and will continue to be until 2054 as per the strategy.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Councillor Morgan, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Oh, in fact, Councillor Pratt has really said most of what I wanted to say. And I have to say that I have considerable difficulty in supporting this without much more detail as to how these very ambitious targets are going to be met, and more importantly, how much it's going to cost to meet. And specifically, I would ask through you, Chair, the officers to perhaps educate me as to how we in Maldon District Council are going to be able to rule out any landfill by 2030. I didn't think that was anything that we had any particular responsibility for, but I'm open to.
Mr. Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. So I think first thing to say about the landfill issue is members are probably aware that the Rivenhall incinerator is due to come online extremely shortly, and there is a long-term ambition, as long as that contract maintains, that Essex will divert waste from landfill into that facility. That obviously is a contract that Essex have procured, but effectively makes the ambition to avoid waste to landfill possible, and it is possible on the basis and knowledge that that facility was, or similar facilities were to become available, which is why that should be achievable. And I'm being informed by my colleague that the 1st of October 2025 that facility will come online and waste will start being pushed into that facility.
No, keep going.
I misplaced the second question, so forgive me.
It was the how.
You've sort of, in a sense, answered it, but I'm just wondering, obviously this is an Essex County Council responsibility that we at MDC simply will have to follow.
Thank you. So obviously we are the Waste Collection Authority, not the Waste Disposal Authority. This document obviously covers it and has been created by all partners as a combined effort. However, clearly the way we collect waste does impact upon the way Essex County Council are able to dispose of waste. This strategy broadly aligns and gives a common goal for all partners, and that is why it includes commentary on Essex waste disposal duties. In effect, we are bound, and we do work very closely with Essex County Council to ensure that our waste is disposed of correctly and recycled. And so the two things are effectively interlinked and perpetually joined.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dodson.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Chapman has very articulately said what I was going to cover in that difference between the disposal authority and the collection authority, us being the collection authority. Thank you.
Yeah, we don't really understand the complexities of what goes on, and we've got a fantastic set of officers and contractors working with us. Councillor Morley.
Thank you, Chair. My question's actually been answered. I was interested to know when the incinerator was going to open, and if they've obviously got the capacity, because Great Blakenham's full. The wood incinerator at Tilbury has packed up, and that's out off action for 6 months. So it is quite fickle, getting rid of this waste. It's not quite easy. And now we're paying to get rid of plastic now rather than getting money for it. So, but the question was answered. So hopefully they got the capacity.
Yeah, thank you. It's very much a burning issue, isn't it? Councillor Shaughnessy, please.
Thank you, Chair. Whilst I've taken on board all the comments from members around me, I would just like to speak on behalf, as a resident, just at this moment. And we've been on the, my road has been included on the latest tranche of the plastic film collection and the purple bags. And from my own point of view, that's going really well. I think the size of the bag, which is carrier bag size, is just right, actually. So I'm giving a bit of positivity here, Chair. And because it squashes down so well, you don't need a great big sack. You just need a carrier bag size, which you can just tie the handles up and put it out with the other. I'd just like to say you've got that absolutely right from, as I say, a resident's point of view, and thank you for that. But notwithstanding all the other comments that have gone this evening, I do agree with many of those.
Thank you.
Thank
There's a slight deviation from the paper, but I think it's great to have that positive feedback. So really appreciate that. Councillor Fittock.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, just so members are aware that we are represented at this forum for quite a long time by the Chair of Strategy and Resources, and in its absence I attended. I think we have to understand that this is part of a bigger picture. What the objective is from the County Council perspective is really to get rid of landfill, and the overarching objective is to reduce waste in general. So it's not that we just have to recycle more. The whole point should be there should be less to recycle in the first place. And really what they're trying to do is to get a consensus amongst the councils by adoption of this policy so that we can all be working towards the same end. I think we've heard from officers there doesn't appear to be any difference in the way that we need to process these recycling or collect waste ourselves. And by default, there is no additional cost to the councils. Arguably, what we should be doing, if we can reduce our waste considerably, then we'll incur less cost for collection of that waste, albeit in the longer run, as I pointed out, that we will end up with less recycling, so there'll be less income coming in from recycling. But that's not a bad thing if we're reducing the waste and benefiting the climate in the first place. So the way that it worked is that each council was represented. We were asked to consider whether we would adopt it in principle to take it forward to the members, and that's exactly what's happened. So personally, I mean, I understand all the things that have been said, but it is something I feel I can support because I think it does to align us with the other councils that the majority will almost certainly accept, if not all of them. And I think it's the bigger picture that we have to understand, this is not just about recycling. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Fittock. Councillor Fluker, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I don't think the question of how much waste is going to be incinerated in 2030 has actually been answered. But, Chairman, I've certainly got some concerns around this, particularly about the action plan, because there must be a cost there. I mean, Miss Love alluded to the fact that this action plan was going to be, I think she said it was started, and then I think she said it would come out in 2 years' time. And what concerns me enormously about that is, Chairman, is you'll remember that there is a waste contract working group has recently been formed, which alerts me to the fact that we must be considering the waste contract. Now, if things are going to change so much that we need an action plan, then we need that action plan in draft format when the working group meets. So perhaps somebody can confirm if that is the case. I'm sure Mr. Holmes would know, and I won't ask the questions if the rules are any different, Miss Holmes, if you're debating as a member or a member of the public. Thank you.
Mr. Holmes.
Chairman, thank you. So the Waste Contract Task and Finish Working Group is called primarily about procuring the contract, and if there are any significant changes in the contract. And I think it's yet to be seen whether there would be any significant change as a result of these changes. If there were, I'm sure that working group would have a view and would be asked to consider any implications. So it's got a watching brief. It doesn't it meets as and when it's required, and officers would alert members to when they feel it's appropriate.
Thank you very much indeed. To answer the question, Councillor Shaughnessy can speak as a member of the public, but she's also an elected councillor, so that's why it was allowed. Councillor Nick Spenceley, please.
Thank you, Chair. If Councillor Pratt's looking for waffle, he need go no further than the Essex transport strategy. I actually think this is a pretty good document. It's got some very solid stuff in it, and a 4% response to a consultation is actually very good. I looked into this when the NHS were doing theirs, and generally a 1% response is reckoned to be very good. 4%, excellent and statistically valid. The question I'd like to ask is why do we always prevaricate and push back on anything to do with green issues in this chamber? We get it with solar farms, we're getting it now, I feel. You know, the clock is ticking on the environment, and time is not on our side. And, you know, some very solid suggestions here. Ambitious targets, we need ambitious targets. We're not going to get there by pushing back in the way that has been happening. And finally, I'd like to echo Councillor Shaughnessy's praise of the plastic film. Without talking too much about dispensary consumption of crisps or packets from a national clothes retailer, we do recycle a lot of plastic film, and it's working well. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Well done. Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chair. This is the key thing about this is Essex waste strategy, not our waste strategy, and it's about how we work with Essex in terms of where our waste goes to and what happens to our waste. In terms of garden waste collection and in terms of black bin collection, the DCN executive is looking at lobbying government around those particular things to ensure that we're all working, eventually all the district councils are working towards the same thing. There is at the moment we can carry on charging for garden waste for quite a long time because the previous government backtracked on that in terms of making it free. We can charge for that. And we know that the garden waste collection service that we provide is far better than any other in Essex. Even though it might be slightly more expensive than some of them, we do more collections throughout the year. So one of the things that we have to look for, and again it could save us money in the long term, is because we are putting less into our black bins, is at some point, and again the DCN is lobbying on this, that we actually go to 3 weekly collections. I know the public will go, oh gosh, but that we go to 3 weekly collections perhaps in the future for black bins, because hopefully we're putting less in those eventually, because more is going to recycling. That's our aim, I think.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens, please.
Thank you, Chair. Quick question, hopefully. On page, it's got 2 page numbers. Page 44 of our pack, but I think it says 16 of the, the pretty brochure. It's got a dog and a chair and a man on it, if that helps people. There's a bullet there that says the partnership will support local businesses to work sustainably and reduce waste, which is, a fine thing to say. But does that mean financially? Are we committing ourselves to something financial there? Because it doesn't say what kind of support it is. I just want to understand that, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chapman.
Thank you, Chair. So as part of the waste hierarchy, which obviously is at the centre of this report, it's about reducing waste that enters into the waste streams in the first place. Businesses clearly have a significant impact in that, in terms of how they can change the products they produce, how they can reuse the waste that they need to do. And in fact, other authorities already provide trade waste collections. So this strategy does need to consider those authorities that provide trade waste. Effectively, the short answer is no, we're not committing ourselves in any way, shape or form for a financial commitment. More broadly, we already, through our climate work, support businesses to try and reduce the amount of waste that they produce. It's good practice across the piece, so that work will continue. It will continue from a central focus from Essex as well, which is extremely helpful. But there's no commitment for us to put financial resource in changing how businesses recycle.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. And finally, I've got Councillor Stamp.
I don't really think I need to say anything else except for Councillor Spenceley. We don't always challenge green. I don't think green. I think we actually robustly challenge a strategy coming from a hire counsel, which I think is every right what we should do, because I certainly don't want to be told that what we have to do. I think our district is unique, and I don't want some bigger authority at the moment telling us what we shouldn't do. I'm more than happy to work with Essex County Council, obviously, because I've got an interest. But I do think it's only right that we can thrash out. I'm certainly concerned that it was going to cost this council money, because if it does, we need to then actually look at the detail. I think a lot of people like to recycle, and a lot of people do. And I also take on board, it is bigger business, it's people like Amazon or the bigger companies that produce a lot of waste and other things that's producing the waste, and things don't last. So to me, it's creating more of an issue and more problems than what us little people do at home in our own bins, because I think many people do recycle. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Spenceley, more crisp habits, I think.
So the reason I seconded this motion is, again, because of the bigger picture, and also because I have to say, if it's one thing that I think we do well as an authority, it is our waste collection. Yep. And if our officers are minded that this is a good idea, do you know what? I think I'm pretty much with them. But as a quick note, we shouldn't always, and I understand about looking at expense, but some things go beyond that. You know, I did once live in Averley, which is famous for its landfill sites. I can't tell you what the reality of living like near a landfill site is, but let's just say you don't want one in your back garden, believe me. So there are exciting things in this, actually. And I think when we're looking at action plans, I'm looking at the vintage bit already with the little clothes row. And I quite, you know, the idea that we would encourage repair of items, and that we could make, you know, actions that could be things that would actually be positive community actions, and get people involved in doing these types of things. So for me, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer. So I'll leave it there. Thank you.
We've had quite a robust debate. I think if you want change, you've got to change yourself, and a lot of that societal changes, isn't it? How we think about it. So, members, we've got recommendations that have been seconded on the table. Do you want to do this by show of hands, please? So, those for the recommendations, please show. Well, I think we'll just do it by unanimous, shall we? Is that okay? Acceptable?
Those against?
Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 against. So that's carried. Thank you very much indeed. We move on to agenda item 12, data protection policy update. This is a complete. Can you please not do that until there's nothing on the table to agree? Thank you very much indeed. We move to agenda item 12, data protection policy update, found on agenda pages 79 to 156. The monitoring officer, Mrs. Holmes, to lead and present the report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, members. Before you tonight, you have 3 policies for approval, all in relation to the Council's data protection obligations. 2 of these policies have been updated and revised, which include the data protection policy and the document retention policy. The data protection policy provides an overarching view and statement as to the Council's protection of personal data that we hold. The document retention policy is a working document that officers refer to and use when considering the destruction of personal information and documents that are no longer required. It sets out timeframes when documents should be destroyed and when they should be kept. The third document is the processing of special category data policy. This is a requirement that the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office, recommends that a local authority has when it deals with special category data. That data is information on a person's health, race, and various other information that's listed within the report. I don't intend to go through them because they are quite lengthy, but I'm happy to answer any questions that any members may have on the policies.
Okay, I'll put the recommendations forward first. So we have 4 recommendations, and the recommendations are: little 1, that the data protection policy attached to Appendix 1 be approved. Little 2, that the processing of special category data policy attached to Appendix 2 be approved. Little 3, that the document retention policy attached to Appendix 3 be approved. And Appendix 4, that delegated authority is given to the Assistant Director of Resources in consultation with the Data Protection Officer to make any operational changes to the retention periods contained within the document retention policy. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Neil, thank you. Members, any comments? Councillor Fluker, Councillor Stamp.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I start by congratulating Ms Holmes on her elevation to monitoring officer? At least no one will be able to tell you I told you so, because you know exactly how this authority works. Just one thing, Chairman, on a more serious note. My dear friend, the former monitoring officer, often used to conclude our discussions with the word, "I shall put a note on your file." So, Chairman, I don't see in this document anywhere how long these files are kept. But, Chairman, whilst I have the attention of Council and the new monitoring officer, at this point, Chairman, I'd like to submit verbally a Freedom of Information Act data access request to ask for a copy of mine, which I'll happily circulate. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. That's accepted by the monitoring officer. Councillor Stamp.
Can I just ask a question? Are we supposed to remember all this information? Because there's a lot there. Or can we just contact you if we've got a problem?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's the short answer, yes. Yeah, any questions on the data protection issue, please? No. They're pretty much the same, other than the special category one, which is just to say how we deal with that more sensitive information. But yeah.
Thank you. So any other members? No. So members, do we agree to move this by consent? Agreed. That's passed. And may I just say, second what members have said, what a fantastic piece of work and so detailed and very, very well done. So thank you. We move on to agenda item 13, which is the midterm financial strategy update and savings strategy. This is item 13, which is found on pages 157 to 160. And Ms Lucas, our Chief Financial Officer, please present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of the report is to provide an update to Council in terms of the medium-term financial strategy position and set out the requirement to address the budget gap in the next financial year, 25-26 and beyond. So members will recall that at the Council meeting in February, we agreed a 2024-25 budget which was balanced, and we noted the MTFS projections for the future years at that point. At that point in time, we were projecting a small gap for the next financial year, which rose a bit further in 26-27. Since that point, we have undertaken, as officers, a review of the savings that were agreed by Council in February, and also to look at the emergence of any unavoidable cost pressures that have arisen. As a result of that, we have provided an initial high-level update to the MTFS assumptions, and they are noted at table 1 in terms of the projected cumulative budget gap at this point in time. I would just like to caveat quite strongly that this is an early work in progress, and all of the numbers are indicative at this stage, but I just want to take the opportunity for members to be aware that the gap, the projected gap has grown at this point, and therefore there will need to be more detailed work undertaken by the Council. As previously agreed by Council, that work will be undertaken by the Finance Member Group primarily, of which there are a number of meetings set up over the next couple of months to undertake that work. And the process is that then that work will be brought back to the Strategy and Resources Committee for onward approval onto Council. Just to note that the current underlying budget assumptions at table 2 have been reviewed but not updated at this stage, but that will form part of the work that's undertaken over the next couple of months as well. At the moment, we're currently projecting at table 3 that our general fund balances would remain in excess of our agreed minimum of 2.6 million, even with the growth in the pressures that are anticipated at this stage. Just to finally note that there are obviously some other decisions that need to be made by Council, not least the leisure contract, which could impact on the financial position going forward as well. So again, as those decisions are undertaken, that information will also be fed into the MTFS as appropriate. So really the report is just for your review and noting, but as the conclusion says, to identify that there is further work that needs to be undertaken. So Council just to be aware of that at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Lucas. So we have a recommendation, and we have one recommendation, which is that the council reviews the updated medium-term financial strategy, MTFS position, and notes that a further update will be reported in December 2024. Do I have a seconder? Thank you very much, Councillor Siddle. Members, any comments? Councillor Stamp?
Yeah, could I ask, oh gosh, it's nearly just gone straight in my mind. Give me a second. Could I ask why you feel that we have now got a gap? Then what circumstances have changed to actually cause you to reissue a new report, I think is the better way of putting it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Lucas.
Thank you, Councillor Stamp. So I felt it was appropriate at this stage just to give all members an idea of the work that's being undertaken, and the fact that, as I say, that the position will have moved on since February. There's nothing in particular that's kind of causing me, immediate alarm to bring it to your attention. It was more just so that you're aware, as I say, that the work is being undertaken and that there are potential new pressures that have arisen since the budget was agreed in February. In terms of the detail of those, as I say, we have done a review with officers to quantify what we feel some of those risks are in terms of the savings that have been agreed already, and as I say, where there's new statutory sort of obligations or decisions that have been made by council that would have a financial implication since that point. So this is a high level estimate at this stage, and as we say, the finance member group will be going through in quite a bit of detail each individual line that makes up those numbers. But I just didn't want to leave it until December for the wider chamber to have any idea of the work that's being undertaken in relation to the budget. So it's really just so you've got an update at this stage.
Thank you very much.
Could I actually be a little bit more pressing, if you don't mind? Are they staffing issues? Are they staffing issues, or are they issues of assets? What are you answering now, Councillor Fluker, or am I asking Ms Lucas? If you could just give us a little bit more, I'd appreciate it. Only if you're allowed to. If not, I'll have to wait for the finance working group.
Yeah, so I think there's a combination of things that are making up the pressures. Obviously, some of them are staffing, as you would expect, and as I say, it's really where there's unavoidable costs in relation to delivering, our core services, our statutory duties, where things have been put forward, and we feel they truly are unavoidable. But it is a mixture of things. But as we know, our budget is kind of half made up of staffing costs, so that staffing costs are a part of that factor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just looking at the table at 3.10, where actually it shows sort of staff inflation at 2.5 projected 25-6 and 2% in 26-27. So that seems to be accounted for. But Chairman, where I'm very concerned is on the 11th of July, it was reported to Council that we have made significant improvements in our financial sustainability over the year. We have set a balanced budget for this financial year, and we are currently projecting healthy levels of reserves in the future. Now, Chairman, 2 months later, almost to the day, the 151 officer is now saying that we're going to have £1 million shortfall over the 2 years referred to in the report. The report gives little indication as to why this position has arisen, other than that it mentions unavoidable cost pressures. Well, one would have thought, Chairman, the unavoidable cost pressures would have been known for quite some time. So what are they? And I quote, the indicative new pressures. So I give way to the fact that they are new pressures, but one would presume these have only come about in the last 8 weeks, because on the 11th of July, we were given a very, very pretty picture. So I'd very much like to know what they are. And I also note that the outturn for Q1, 24-25, this fiscal year, will be presented to the Resources Committee in September. Now that, I always get it wrong, but I think that's for the period April, May, June. So one would have thought, bearing in mind it's September, that we will know those figures. So I wonder if the 151 officer can confirm now approximately what that figure is and what the outturn for the 24-25 MTS is likely to be, because this is very important, because it may well be that we have to make some pretty big changes now, not go through this cycle, which means nothing's coming back to council for, if I've got it right, 3.5 months. And if we haven't got those figures, I'd really like to know why. And finally, I'm sure that having read the report, our newly appointed Chief Executive Officer has noticed, like me, one very important word is missing when it comes to how we mitigate this issue of finding basically £1 million. And that word is efficiency. It doesn't appear once anywhere in this document. And the new Chief Executive Officer might be surprised by that, but I am not. But that aside, I look forward to him delivering a solution to this chaotic position, which has changed so dramatically since the 11th of July. And hopefully my questions will be answered. But before I sit down, can I wish the 151 officer all the best in her new position at the LGA? And I hope if she has one takeaway from this authority, it was when I informed her that the local hospital had indeed found out that I had a heart.
An awfully large amount of information to respond to with a paper that's there for noting, but Miss Lucas.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Councillor Fiduca. In terms of the position changing since July, the position hasn't changed massively since what we reported in July. We have set a balanced budget for 24-25, which remains the case. As I say in the report, that the Q1 position will be reported to Strategy and Resources shortly. I think those papers will be published in the public domain in just a few days, and that will report that we're projecting an underspend at this point for this financial year. The reserves and balances do remain healthy, and as I said, above our agreed minimum level of 2.6 million. I think the position that we set when we set the budget in February was a significant improvement to what was being projected prior to that point, and we did a significant amount of work over the last year with the finance member group to ensure that we could set a balanced budget for this financial year. Having said that, obviously the budget is always a moving situation. There's always things that change and move on, and it's part of the budget process that we would continue to review our assumptions, review any emerging pressures. And as with any council, that situation does evolve, and that's why I have brought this paper back to say that the situation will change. It will continue to change, and we need to do that work over the next few months to ensure that we continue with that financial sustainability work that we have successfully done over the last year. So I think that hopefully answers your question.
Yep, thank you. Leader, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As Ms Lucas has just pointed out, we are not in chaos at all. We have a balanced budget for this year, and we will work to maintain balanced budgets for the future. Obviously, the Chief Exec has not joined the organisation yet, and he can't really speak at this meeting. However, I would like to point out that myself and Mr Wilkinson have been working together already in terms of the future of this council and how we might approach things and efficiencies that we might look at with officers, and they are a priority for myself and him for the future. We will be looking at how we make sure that this council is fit for the future, not only for the next 2 years, but for future years after that. And we have to look at those figures. Although we are under pressure, in 2026, we will still have a balance, we'll have reserves of 4.8 million. Minimum is 2.6 million. So we will still have large reserves, even if we don't tackle these particular pressures. And one of the things that I know that's happened over the last year with all the groups and with all members across this council, we have tackled those issues together, and we shall continue tackling those issues together because we are all in this together. And that's the important thing to remember. And that's the value of the finance working group, because we are all working together to ensure that this council is effective for now and in the future.
Thank you very much indeed. Before we move to the vote, I also agree chaos is not a state that this council is in. Ms Lucas, you've done some fantastic work during your time with us, which we greatly appreciate. And she's done some great. That is not fact. Okay, that's a warning that it could be, but if you look at what we had with the MTFs last time, we produced a higher return than we anticipated. So we're not in that position, and I slightly resent that personally. Also, I think that what we need to look at is the new chief executive is not in post yet, so we need to wait until that actually occurs. And unusually, long-standing members who know me, I went and looked at the paper and it said inquiries too. So I thought I'll go and ask about that unexpected pressure, and I got an answer from the officer, so I understand what that pressure is. We either accept that or we don't. So thank you, members, for a very robust debate. And now we have a recommendation that's been seconded. Shall we do this by assent? Agreed. Yep, so agreed. Okay, thank you very much indeed, members. So that is agreed, and thanks again, Ms Lucas. We move now to agenda item 14, which is a National Planning Policy Framework Consultation response found on pages 161 to 188. And members to note that addendum was circulated on the 11th of September. And we have Ms Althoff-Shawland, Head of Service Planning Policy and Implementation, to present the report. Ms Althoff-Shawland, welcome.
Thank you, welcome. This is a paper on our proposed response to the NPPF consultation that's out at the moment from the government, and it runs to the 24th of September. And I'm going to focus on what I think is the main impact that this could have on the district. So one of the main changes that the government are proposing is to change the national standard method for calculating housing numbers. And the way that they set it out to do that, our housing number will go from 276 per annum to 544 per annum. And that's going to be a target. It's nothing to do with housing need anymore. So, and it's very far removed from what we have in our local housing needs assessment and what we have been delivering on average since the local plan was approved. So across the plan period, it's way above that, 96, 97%. And the end result of that is that we're going to have an imposed top-down target, which we will have to put in the plan, and then we will have to deliver. Even though we actually don't deliver housing, we only allocate land for the delivery of housing. And the implications of that are quite far-reaching, because we don't know what the transition period for this is going to be, and it could be no transition period at all. It's due to come in probably November, December, and what could happen overnight is our 5-year supply will drop dramatically below 5 years overnight if this comes in. And that, of course, will then have an impact on the fact that we will then be subject to speculative housing applications again, which we will find very difficult to resist. The other implication, of course, is with the higher numbers that are is an imposed target with no way of mediating that. Of course, it's going to have an impact on our infrastructure, as you were discussing earlier on in the meeting. And it's very difficult for us to see how this is going to be delivered, because at the moment the 276 per annum that we've been asked to deliver under the standard method at the moment, because it is nearly at our local housing need number, that we know that formation of those houses are coming from a mixture of the formation of new households within the district and in migration. So if you up that housing number, what we've basically got to do is we're building houses for people who are going to be moving into the district. And then there's a kind of wider impact to that, because if they're moving into the district and then they're maybe not working in the district, they're going to have to be out commuting from the district, which then puts extra pressure on our roads. So this could have far-reaching effects on us. So quite a big amount of the time for this consultation response is actually responding to that. And across nationally, I think most councils are going to be responding in a negative way to this consultation. I'll leave it at that, see if there's any questions.
Yep, thank you very much indeed. Members, we have one recommendation that the Council approves the consultation response to the draft NPPF for submission to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government by the deadline. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Driver, thank you. Members, Councillor Stamp.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's actually quite a good document. I think it could be stronger. If I'd have written it, I think I would maybe put some stronger words in there. But I think you've highlighted the massive infrastructure deficit we will have as a district. You only have to come out to the Dengie, and I have invited the new chief executive to bring his passport, and we're quite welcome to show him around, to come into the Dengie and go to Bradwell. Don't just stay Maldon centric, or you know what it seems to happen in this council. Just so you can actually take some to understand the massive implications of infrastructure. That if these numbers, housing numbers, are set to us, given to us, that we have to adhere to, we're going to be crippled. I said many years ago we should have a helipad in Burnham-on-Crouch or Southminster, because you won't be able to get on and off soon. I'm not exaggerating. We've got road closures left, right and centre, because highways are luckily now repairing some of the roads. It's not just that, it's schools, it's the trains, it's the cost, it's the education facilities, it's the doctors. We've all heard this, me banging on about this for a number of years, members, so forgive me, but I will stop. But I think it's well written, and I thank I'm not on the planning policy working group anymore, which is a shame. I'm going to try and go back on it. I'd like to thank you all, and I think we need to be robust, and we need to hold the new government to account. And it's all right saying, oh yeah, we're going to do this, without the information, the factual delivery that we're going to do behind the scenes, because it's just not feasible. We can't do it. None of us can do it. Those housing numbers have increased so much, and yeah, okay, let the developers are going, yeah, let's put this here. We know for a fact we can't even deliver a hospital. How many numbers are we going to have to increase, people are we going to increase by from all these houses? We haven't got schools, we haven't got nursery places that are vacant. And it's all right, everybody's saying that the birth rate is going down. If you've got people moving into houses, big houses, they're going to have more children. And we've all said that our people aren't dying as quick. We've got issues over there, living longer. That sounds a bit mean, doesn't it? People aren't dying as quick. Sorry, you know me a little bit sometimes. I didn't mean it like that. People are living longer, Wendy, be a little bit more. People are living longer with complicated health issues. And it's not just people who don't have other issues that they need to be looked after. So thank you, the Planning Policy Group, and I hope it does make a difference. And I think Councillor Siddle might speak up in a minute and say that the DCN and everybody else above is going to support us. I know Essex County Council is going to write a strong letter as well. So thank you, Anne.
Thank you very much, Councillor Fluker. Do you want to speak, Richard?
Okay, a couple of things. First of all, on page 181, I don't know why it is, but I think probably more members of this chamber are probably going to look at this document than the Deputy Prime Minister and her team. But on question number 70, it says there should be a national policy capping the number of takeaways. I think there's a typo there, unless they're capping it at 1 and they got the 1 in the wrong place. But Chairman, I think it's terribly unfair the way this is written, because it actually speaks, I think, towards takeaway outlets. Now, Chairman, I've spent a lot of time since Christmas in Balham, Wandsworth and Clapham, and there's a takeaway of every description possible that you can think of. But you mustn't lose sight of the fact that some of these takeaways are very healthy. A lot of them are vegan, a lot of them are vegetarian, a lot of them just do fruit juices and this sort of stuff. So I think to just say takeaway outlets, I'm not sure if that's absolutely right, Chairman. And if I can go to page 161, if I can get there quickly. I think we may well have missed something here, Chairman, in relation to what Councillor Stamp said. And I think it's something that we, if at all possible, we should try. I beg your pardon, 166. Sorry, that's good. That's good. I've got my chappie sitting next to me. A bit late up tonight. Question 6, Chairman, on that page, this talks about the presumption in favour of sustainable development. I mean, one of the things that I think we really should put in there is the fact that how many times have members seen an objection from the National Health Service, an objection from education, saying that there just isn't any slack in the system for this development, and we're going to put a holding objection. And we all think this is really good. And then when the application goes before the planning committee, the objection has been withdrawn by virtue of the fact that they have applied an algorithm which basically says, if you give us, there's no, to give you an example, Barley Meadows at Southminster, they said there was no capacity in the system, Tillingham, Bradwell and, I beg your pardon, Tillingham, Burnham and Southminster. There was no capacity. There was no capacity to extend those surgeries. But then they turned around and said, but if you give us 160,000 as a commuted sum, we will withdraw our objection. And this is the same with education. It is impossible to expand Southminster School. The school is full, yet we're under pressure at the moment from developers in Southminster, and Essex County Council have turned around and said, give us the dollar and we will withdraw our objection. So I really do think that we should just weave something in there to say that the applications of these algorithms to satisfy the statutory consultees and service providers should not be accepted. But the reason why we're here, Chairman, the reason why we're here is because the government want to build. And they've come up with something here, which I don't think anything of us like. I don't think it's any surprise whatsoever. The local developers has actually worked it out before the Planning Policy Working Group worked it out, and it's the figures published by local developers. Our housing land supply will drop to 3.2 years, which basically means it will be game on for the developers. Anybody that's got an oven-ready application at the moment is going to put that forward and they are going to build. And the reason why we are in that position...
Could you mind just coming to a concise conclusion?
I am, Chairman, with one of your
you should be 3 minutes, but this evening I've been very generous.
Chairman, the reason why we're in this position is because the chaos caused by the last government.
Don't make national political issues
Why
about.
not?
We're asking you to speak on a paper. Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Councillor Siddle.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to reassure Councillor Stamp that the DCN executive have produced a very robust response to the consultation as well. Every single political group, Independent, Liberal Democrat, Green, Conservative and Labour, all objected to these proposals, and that has been the response. Essex County Council are producing a response which again is fairly negative, and the North Essex councils have just produced a response today which we have advised on and will be signing to again, which is generally against these proposals. And we know that this would create a minefield for all district councils across the country. Some more than others, we're more than others. But yeah, I think the response that's been produced by officers is very, very good, and we should all support it.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Councillor Spenceley, please. Nick Spenceley.
Thank you. I just have one question regarding page 170, which suggests that the evidence is we need yet more 3- and 4-bedroom houses. And I struggle with this because surely producing more 1- and 2-bedroom flats and houses will give young people that first step into housing, create churn and lower the affordability ratio. So I just need that explaining to me, because I'm seeing loads of 3- and 4-bedroom houses being put up at quite high prices. And I'm not sure how this works for us.
Thank you. I think there's no comment we can make on that at the moment. I think Councillor Una Norman, please answer.
Yes, I'm that old person everybody's talking about. I unfortunately lost my husband in 2011, and I have a 3-bed. Well, actually, it's a 4-bedroom house, and I can't afford to sell it to buy another one, a smaller one, because I can't afford the smaller ones. Now, I must admit there are masses and masses of people all over our district in my position. I speak to them every day. Now, I do not... Society, I'm sorry, I'm going to say it to you, I think it's sick, because they do not understand the basic principles of how we can deal with this. We need to make sure that the houses that we already have, the right people are in them. We can't say to them, OK, you're an old person in a 4-bedroom house, you've got to sell it. But the majority of elderly people that I speak to would love to, but they can't afford for 500,000 in a bungalow. So where are we going? I mean, I don't know. I'm getting to the stage now where I'm thinking, well, I can't change it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fittock, please.
Thank you.
Sorry, Fittock, would you mind if I just pulled Anne back in? Sorry, I missed Anne's hand up earlier. My apologies. Anne.
Yeah, I was just going to answer Councillor Spence's question about the number of bedrooms. We have a local housing needs assessment, and it percentagifies the number of bedroom size houses you have on each kind of development, and and at the moment we need more 3-bedroom houses, but that's up for review. I'm just about to write the brief so that we can review that document and see if it's still correct.
Thank you very much.
That's how we get the information.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, and apologies for not seeing your hand up there earlier. Councillor Fittock.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I'd like to commend the officer on the report. I think it covers most of the areas. Just on the point that Councillor Fluker raised with respect to the presumption of sustainable development, that needs to be read in the context of what the question that was asked. And basically what the consultation is asking for is, should the changes made by the Conservative government in terms of how the 5-year housing land supply and at what points in time it's valid should be changed. So, for example, the government were looking at after the plans adopted for the 5 years subsequent to that no 5-year housing land supply should be is required, and in part because developers often challenge a new plan based upon the assumptions that have been made on build-out rates and lead times and things like that. So I think the problem is that the answer to the question is different to the question that's been asked sometimes, and you have to understand the question that's been asked. So, and again, on the terms of the housing, the problem that we have and the problem with the algorithm is that it measures the overall housing market churn, not just houses that have got built. So in our district, 80% of the market is existing households. So that is generally going to push the median price up to the 3 and 4 bedroom houses. And because the need is for more 3 and 4 bedroom houses, not all need, but it is weighed towards that side, it's almost impossible to bring the median price down. So I think you've done a very good job at trying to explain that in the response of the report. So I think you've done very well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fittock. Members, we have a recommendation that's been seconded. Can we agree this by assent? Agreed. Thank you very much indeed. We move on to agenda item 15, which is a response to Essex Transport Strategy Public Consultation, which is found on pages 189 to 204. Members to note also that an addendum was circulated on the 11th of September. We have Miss Jackie Longman here to take us through the report. Ms. Longman, thank you.
Thank you. This is Essex County Council's statutory transport strategy. It is a part 1 to the strategy, so it is on the framework of the strategy. So that's the themes, 3 themes, outcomes and activities. Essex County Council's new place and movement approach to road hierarchy, and also their 3-step approach in their transport strategy. So paragraphs 3.1 to 3.6, set out the Essex transport strategy in the context of the regional strategy. So, regionally, Transport East have a strategy which has its objectives. which are decarbonising transport, connecting growing places, energise coastal and rural communities, and global gateways. Transport East have also published a document about rural connections and the importance and the focus on rural mobility and those challenges, and recognising about the eastern region's large rural and coastal populations and how they access health and essential services, access to education and training, access to employment, avoiding socialisation and promoting wellbeing and social mobility. Section 3.7 down to 3.74 looks at the local context against the Essex Transport Strategy and the district, the ECC-led Maldon District Future Transport Strategy. So this is the first district-wide transport strategy prepared in Essex, and it sets out the importance of rural and coastal connections and the lack of alternatives to car use with poor public transport, especially bus services in the rural coastal areas to access health, education, shopping and employment. So the response has tried to emphasise the existing challenges that the district faces, the transport challenges, and how this sort of framework to the strategy can, let our voice be heard, bring us round the table, and also address some of the other important challenges like climate action that have been discussed this evening. Transport is the main offender of greenhouse gas emissions in the UK, and again, there are huge targets to reach, in transport. So the recommendation is for the consultation response to be approved. But as the Chairman said, there is an addendum to question 20, where the Planning Policy Working Group looked at the draft response, and there is an addendum set out to add into question 20.
Thank you very much indeed. So we have one recommendation. The full recommendation is that Council approves the consultation response to the Essex Transport Strategy in Appendix 1 and submits the response online by the deadline. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Stilts, thank you very much indeed. Members, I've got Councillor Stamp. Thank you, and Councillor Stilts.
Thank you. You won't be surprised to know that I wasn't very happy with this. I don't think it addresses the actual issues we've got, and I think at the briefing we had, Ms Longman was very helpful towards me, because I actually did raise the direct question of what will Burnham or the Dengie actually get. You've just turned around and said that about the greenhouse gases being generated, but yet on our consultation response, when it says understand residents' travel behaviour and how to promote more active travel such as cycling and walking, we only put agree, not strongly agree. And it says also work with community groups to encourage social interaction through travel such as through bike loan schemes, we only agree. Why do we not strongly agree? I know of a certain gentleman, I think he's an ex-copper, or he might even still be a copper, who lives in Burnham, and he actually does mend the bikes, and he does a lot of work locally for people to have these bikes that are available. And I'll commend Miss Longman for her absolute honesty when I raised about the cycling issues. We don't have the cycle paths. She very kindly turned around and honestly said, well, it is not safe to drive around the area, the Dengie. So where does that leave us? What's the point in us having a strategy from Essex County Council if it actually isn't going to affect and stop the greenhouse gases and the diesel coming from our cars when we can't even cycle around our lovely countryside freely and openly? And I'll let Ms Longman respond because I know what she's going to come back with, because she came back to me at the meeting. It says also, question 4, page 194, it says quite clearly, people in a loose term and MDC feel people in rural areas may miss out to people in urban areas, we will miss out. We do miss out. We don't have the same luxury as what everybody else who lives in urban, and we know that. We know that. So I think some of this could be worded strongly, more strongly. I won't go through everything, but where we've turned around and said agree, I think we really do need to strongly agree, because I don't think we're ticking the boxes properly. I think it's another strategy. I think, and I'm sorry, I think it's a tick box. I don't think it's addressed the reality of what we actually live and where our unique character of our area is, and it's not addressing it until we start to be a little bit more tougher and say it's not acceptable. We need the digibus, we need the digigo, we need a proper bus service, we need £2 fares to get people back on the bus. Leave your cars at home. We've got to have more than a 1.5 hour bus service. Then the bus breaks down at Maldon, so it can't bring people back to Southminster or the Dengie. You know, it's just not acceptable. If we're going to agree to a strategy, we've got to turn around to be a little bit more robust. And I'm sorry, I sound really grumpy tonight. I don't really mean to be.
I think we also, in the same respect as Councillor Fluker, we need to keep the concise. The points are very clear.
How much more concise can I say? It's not fit for purpose. Sorry, Chairman. I think that's absolutely fine.
Well, that's great. Ms Longman.
I agree with everything Councillor Stamp is saying. You know, we're starting at a very poor baseline, which is very clear in the baseline evidence in our future transport strategy. We are, you know, there are things being done separately by county with walking and cycling. There is an Essex-wide local cycling and walking infrastructure plan. There is also a Maldon and Heybridge local cycling and walking infrastructure plan under preparation at the moment, just to address that point about walking and cycling. And the Maldon and Heybridge one is out to public consultation at the moment. I will change everything to strongly agree where it was agree. But just to make it clear, this is a part one. This is the framework that the consultation response is to. Part two of the Essex Transport Strategy will be in early 2025, setting out area plans with a full programme of planned investment on these part one ideas in specific areas of Essex.
Thank you very much indeed. Come back.
Chair, it's not my. I can't say that the council votes to change that to strongly agree. That was my suggestion. Council must decide that. It's not my decision to make.
Do council agree that we change agree to strongly agree? Yeah. I would say it's a very sensible thing. We strongly agree to strongly agree. Thank you very much. Councillor Stilts, please.
Thank you. Councillor Stamp has actually said most of what I was going to say, and that is that this isn't strong enough. I mean, we do have areas in this district, and I know that Councillor Siddle will come back and back me on this, that doesn't have bus services, doesn't have pavements, and we're not pushing enough that our rural district is lacking in that infrastructure on transport. It's lovely saying let's leave the car at home, but to get to from Maldon to Burnham or even to Tollsbury, you know, there is no bus service to do that. So complex. There used to be a railway, yeah, but there's not anymore. So I don't think this is strong enough, and I think we need to have it stronger.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Councillor Siddle Norman, please.
I come back again for 30 years again. This was discussed and we had strategies. What is a strategy? I'm sorry, but a strategy is something I thought that actually happened. Well, it didn't happen 30 years ago, and I'm beginning to worry now. Now, the thing is this, I'm lucky because I've got a railway station. In fact, I counted the cars in it today. There was 21. Now, the thing is that they all obviously went on a train. But if you actually take into consideration the young people that have bikes, there's hardly any of them riding around on bikes. Well, only on the things in the park where they go up and down and make noise. But however, what are we going to do about the strategy? I'm sorry, Do you agree with me? I mean, we keep on making strategies and it doesn't happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Morgan.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Well, I sort of agree with Councillor Norman there. The fact that something as important as the transport strategy for Essex is encapsulated in a 21 multiple choice questionnaire is just frankly laughable. And really, this is something that needs significantly more comment from our side as to the particular problems that we face, which are peculiar, I think, to Maldon District. In particular, also, as I hear, I've heard a number of rumours that the the widening of the A12 is probably going to disappear in cuts as well. So I think we need a much more robust approach to this. Thank you.
Well, we've been asked to approve or not the document that was given to us, so it can fall or it can be approved. Councillor Pratt, please.
I think Ms Long's done a good job with the questions you've been asked. So I support it. Unfortunately, as a lot of members have mentioned, we really struggle, as you know. So if only, perhaps on question 20, we could use that as our spokesperson or our opportunity of saying, certainly when my 15-year-old grandson wants to come from the bottom end of Burnham down to Southminster, I go and get him. Because I know it's thought, well, why doesn't he get on his bike and ride up? But it frightens the life out of me to come along the Burnham Road to Southminster, round the bend, he'll get wiped out. Okay, so I go and get him. He sometimes comes on the bus, but if he misses the bus, he has to wait an hour and a quarter for the next one. And he can't go home later than 7:30 because there isn't another bus. So it's me getting in the car, taking him, going and get him. So perhaps question 20 is our opportunity to actually use that to make our voice heard.
Thank you, Ms Longman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The addendum has been, the addition to question 20 has been written in the addendum. Would it help if I read that out?
I beg your pardon, I didn't see that.
It's recommended that we add Maldon District Council as a rural coastal authority faces key challenges because of its current transport deficit, the highest reliance on car travel in Essex, low rates of walking and cycling, which is the baseline data in the Essex ECC-led draft Maldon District Future Transport Strategy, and continued cuts and losses to public and community transport services. The Council has highlighted where the Essex Transport Strategy framework must consider rural coastal areas as a priority to build a successful public transport network and create sustainable places where the transport needs and choices are for everyone, wherever they live, work or visit, with a transport mode of choice.
Thank you, Ms Longman.
Sorry, Jackie, I missed that, but agreed.
Luckily, we had a copy up here as well, so that's okay. I think that's everybody who wishes to speak. No, you're going to have to move, I think. Sorry. Councillor Stevens and then the leader.
Sorry, I'll need to get a bit taller, won't I? I think the report is great. I would like to add something, and I don't mind which section it goes into, but I'm not finding reliability in there. So we have bus services, and we were even accused in Tollsbury just this last week of being over-bussed. Well, that is because all the buses turn up at once, then they can't get round each other, so they're causing a hazard, which I am working on with Essex County Council transport officers, and we are making headway there. We're not over-bussed. But I'm not seeing reliability in there at all, and yet all I see on the village Facebook group all the time is people saying, oh look, the number 95's gone down, oh look, the number something else is not coming. It's constant, and there will be perhaps 3 consecutive buses missing off the same route. So what was going to be an hour and a half, which is a drag, is... well, it's just not happening today, is it? You can't get to work on time. I am already aware of somebody who has actually lost their job because they couldn't get to work on time. I constantly see messages coming from people saying, I'm trying to get to the airport, the bus isn't here, can anyone help me out? And people having not just plan A and plan B, but plan C as well. I need to see reliability in there. Our bus company uses old London buses. They break down all the time. They don't seem to have access to any other funds. I've no idea whether they really have no access to the funds or if that's the solution. But I really would like to see reliability in this response, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms Longman, is that possible? Because I think that's a very fair point.
Yes, I can weave it in somewhere, I think. Yeah.
As a user of the 75 bus, I completely concur with reliability. Okay, members, Councillor Siddle, my apologies. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. This has been approved by members at the Planning and Policy Working Group. Councillor Morgan, you're a member of that group, so you did see the content of this sooner than other members and had your chance to change input into the document, which is what I did with Ms Longman in terms of question 20, because I felt it needed to be more robust, and Ms Longman and myself worked together, and I think she added a really good response. This to me is Essex County Council doing some nice pie in the sky without sorting out the current problems, and I did my own personal response in terms of that, and my summing up was sort out the issues first before you do anything new.
Thank you very much. So members, again, another robust debate. So we have the recommendation has been seconded. Can we agree that by assent with the changes that Ms Long was going to put in? Fine. Go on then.
Is there any opportunity for accessibility disabled people to anywhere in this survey? I mean, special needs people, children, ability, getting on the buses like that? Because I mean, what I'm hearing now is and safe journeys. Is that available? Any comments?
That's really for the bus companies, isn't it? Because they do have the. No.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Is it in phase 2 or something?
Well, we don't know.
It is important.
Yeah, I don't deny it, but if it's not there, we can't respond to it. And if it is something we can push to come forward, then maybe on phase 2 that we can keep that noted, because it's very valid points. No, I think Mrs Longman will remember that. So, members, we've had the debate, we've had the seconded, agree by assent. Agreed. Thank you very much. That was the loudest agree of the night. Thank you. 16 is questions to the Leader of the Council in accordance with Procedure Rule 13M. Councillor Stilts. We've got 8 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry, I'm not going to stand up. This is the second time in a very short period that the pavement machines in both Butt Lane car park and White Horse car park have gone down. Can the Leader please assure this council that this will be looked at by the car parking working group?
Thank you.
Yes, I can assure you that it will be looked at, because especially when it went wrong at the weekend, it caused all sorts of issues, and I think members got more messages over that weekend in terms of those things, and then it was catching up during the week. So yeah, I think it is something that the officers and the car parking working group should look at in terms of the reliability.
Thank you very much. The next person who wishes to ask a question. There was somebody beforehand, before you, Councillor Fluker. There was Councillor Bassinger. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. In the light of the decision made earlier, does this mean we will have to review all meetings with the NHS, including HOSC and the Trust meetings?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bassinger. I have already messaged the corporate leadership team about this, and as a result of the decision earlier, we will have to unpick every single NHS meeting that we attend, and if necessary, not attend those meetings.
Thank you very much. Councillor Fluker.
Thank you, Chairman. Leader, will you join me in thanking Mrs Longman for the enormous amount of work she's put into the Central Area Master Plan? and the design code, and note the importance of having local officers involved in the LDP review. Leader, at the meeting of the Planning Policy Working Group this week, members were asked to agree policy guidelines with regards to the gypsy traveller and travelling showman policies and the potential of where these new site locations will be. Leader, do you agree with me? Rather than hold non-decision making member briefings, and I understand we've got two to look forward to over 2 meetings, an update on the LDP review for the benefit of all members so that we can look at spatial planning, we can look at the HELA and the call for sites, is brought to this council as a matter of urgency. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Fluker. Leader.
Councillor Fluker and myself have debated this, I think, every single Planning Policy Working Group meeting, and I have asked for briefings to all members of the council on the local plan so that all members are informed about where the local plan is, where the difference are, and that is going to be scheduled in an evening over within the next month or so to ensure that all members are up to date in terms of the policies and in terms of the plan and in terms of the sites and in terms of gypsy and travellers and in terms of all the policies that have been used so far. If after that members feel that there is a need for this to be debated at full council, then we can debate it at full council. However, until we've got a decision to make, we can't, there's nothing to debate. So we need to ensure that there is, if we are bringing something to full council, that it is something that we are going to debate and there's a decision to be made on. So once those briefings have taken place, if member feels that there is a decision to be made, then we can make that decision at council. However, an update, as we know, is not a good reason for having a council report. At the moment, the crucial thing is to ensure that all members are up to date on absolutely everything, so they have that knowledge and they have the understanding of where the local plan is at this stage. And that will happen.
Thank you very much. So that concludes the questions to the leader. So we move on to the closure of the meeting. So members, thank you for your contributions this evening. I draw the meeting to a close at 21:55. As the meeting is now closed, you're advised to leave promptly.